So on Friday, I got word that Toby Emmerich, Warner Bros. Film chief, had reached out to Netflix to potentially join the streamer, but Netflix had rebuffed his inquiry. Now, I didn't even tease this to you because I only gotten it from one source. I was unable to confirm it with another source, but today the Hollywood Reporter confirmed it, so we can finally openly discuss it. And I'm going to break down why this is important for Warner Brothers and also what this potentially means for you. It's a fascinating business story. Remove all emotion from it, and let's look at this analytically. So Toby Emmerich has 18 months left on his contract at Warner Bros., which was extended in 2019 to end sometime in 2022. If he felt secure in his future at Warner Brothers, it's unlikely he would have reached out to Netflix. And the Hollywood Reporter clarified today that it was in fact David Geffen. Remember David Geffen? He's one of the co-founders of DreamWorks. David, he's a big music guy. In fact, at Lincoln Center, there's a whole building named after him. He reached out to Netflix on behalf of Emmerich. A call, by the way, that Netflix publicly denies, which is totally understandable because it's quite uncouth for involved parties to publicly discuss these kinds of interactions. So everyone's doing what they're supposed to. You can't blame anybody for what they're doing. Now, that a major studio head would think to move to a streaming service and that the streaming service would say, no, thank you, well, that is a stark portrayal of the shifting power dynamics in Hollywood. So that right there is fascinating. But it gets even more interesting. Now, why would Toby Emmerich's days at Warner Brothers be numbered? I mean, they have, after all, done a very good job navigating the pandemic. They have the biggest box office share right now, as we just discussed on Movie Math. Sure, there's not that many other players at the box office right now, but still, that's something that's an achievement. And while Toby Emmerich might now be in charge of HBO Max original movies, he only got that because the original group that was doing it in-house over there. Remember, HBO Max is a different division. It's not even run at all by Warner Brothers. That streaming service is not Toby Emmerich's responsibility or even Ann Sarnoff's responsibility. That's run under Warner Media. It's like a peer. It's supposed to be a peer to the Warner Brothers Entertainment Company. So he can't be blamed for that. Now, the Hollywood Reporter's guess is that the backlash over the day and date play for 2021, where they say that Toby Emmerich was a key player in that decision, might be a factor. I think there are other factors, but this is the Hollywood Reporter's guess. Because, while it did work out to a degree, they do have that large market share, it's been very expensive for the studio as they've had to make up a lot of the lost back-end deals. And in many cases, they vastly overpaid the talent in front of and behind the camera because they calculated the deals up front with the assumption that these films would be hits. And, they're not really performing, I think, even as, Warner Brothers had hoped for a pandemic. Denzel Washington made out the best. He got the best deal, and I think he was actually worth every penny because The Little Things did really well on streaming. So that Denzel, he's one of the last movie stars left. Him, Tom Hanks, and Leonardo DiCaprio. They're not guaranteed box office, even those guys anymore, but they're some of the last movie stars left. The last movie star. But anyway, speaking of drama, in addition to that day and date scenario where Denis Villeneuve, Christopher Nolan, even Patty Jenkins, not Patty Jenkins to the same degree, and also she lost a lot of her ability to complain after the backlash to Wonder Woman 1984. But there were a lot of directors saying not such great things about the studio, a studio that was once famous for the loyalty that talent had to it. We're going to discuss that when we talk about the recent history of Warner Brothers management. But anyway, they've had additional drama with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation that plagues two franchises, and it's not going away. And then, of course, there's the Snyder Cut drama. Now, if Emmerich were to leave, that doesn't mean the Snyder Cut would definitely come back. But the chances of it someday returning would go from no chance in hell to maybe, the door would be open again, even if it was just a crack, especially if the new head of the studio is someone who has a good relationship with Snyder. So I know a lot of you, that's the most important thing, and that's what this would mean. Now, to me, I think the biggest factor, the bottom line, if this happens, would be that none of Warner Brothers franchises are performing at the level that they should be. I'm talking not just DC, but Fantastic Beasts, the future of Harry Potter. I think it's great that Warner Brothers got the Harry Potter franchise to continue. Kevin Tsujihara, who of course left the studio in scandal, but he did go and drive to J.K. Rowling's house, although she herself is embroiled in scandal. Why is there so much drama over at Warner Brothers? No one's to blame for J.K. Rowling self-imploding but herself. But, Kevin Tsujihara famously sat down with her and said, what's it going to take for you to stay with this, let us continue with these movies? And J.K. Rowling said, a big piece of the pie and, creative control. And that seemed like a great deal at the time until, again, she, decided to implode. But anyway, Fantastic Beasts isn't doing well. And now even Mortal Kombat, which clearly has tremendous potential, squandered it out of the gate. Well, there was Mortal Kombat movies before, but this was a chance to relaunch the brand, and the opportunity was there. The interest was there. It was incredible the weekend that movie launched, but it was botched. It's not the level that it should be. And so far, the 2021 slate has not been a hit with fans. Look at all these Rotten Tomatoes, with the general consensus that even the one movie that got a fresh tomato could have been a lot better. And I want to say, I enjoyed many of these. Well, I enjoyed, I'd say, about 50% of these movies. I thought they were good. But at the end of the day, Hollywood it's show business, not show what do you personally like. And you can't ignore what the majority how the majority feels. Now, a source of mine once described Toby Emmerich's style as running Warner Brothers films defensively, which would explain why they're often a couple of steps behind Disney when they don't have to be. If they'd made the Flash movie faster, they wouldn't have, Marvel beating them to the punch with this multiverse thing. I hear the Flash movie's really good. So that's frustrating. Now let's talk about the difference a studio exec makes. Now, Jeff Robinov used to be the head of Warner Brothers Film. I actually once interviewed him on the red carpet for Great Gatsby. Swell guy. And he was famous for having great relationships with talent. That's where that loyalty to Warner Brothers comes from. If you were a Warner Brothers star, you were a Warner Brothers star. Now, he brought in Christopher Nolan, Ben Affleck, Zack Snyder, and also many others like Leonardo DiCaprio into the fold. And many of those stars have left Warner Brothers over the last couple of years. That's bad. Alan Horn ran all of Warner Brothers. He's in the position that, he was in the position that Ann Sarnoff currently has. It was Kevin Tsujihara's, and it used to be Alan Horn. Now, he ran all of Warner Brothers, and then when he left, Robinov had thought that he would be promoted to that job. And when Kevin Tsujihara got it, coming, I believe, from home video, Jeff Robinov quit. He quit and he left and he went to start his own production company, which has not worked out. And in fact, almost a decade later, I hear that he might be somewhat open to coming back. I think running Warner Brothers films now suddenly doesn't seem quite as bad anymore. I mean, he felt it was offensive that he didn't get promoted, but as he found out, things could get worse. So I'd love to see Jeff Robinov return. Side note, Alan Horn. Hollywood's a small town, everybody. Alan Horn was coaxed out of retirement by Bob Iger to run Disney Film, which he does to this day, although I do believe he's about ready to end that reign. But he's done a fantastic job. It's a real love fest over there. They even resolved the James Gunn issue. That's like the one problem that Disney had, the one bit of drama. And now Warner Brothers and Disney share James Gunn. All right, so after Robinov quit, a trio was promoted to run Warner Brothers Film, which included Toby Emmerich, who had been running New Line. And eventually, in 2018, he became the sole head of Warner Brothers Film. Kevin Tsujihara, of course, was, as I said, left amidst a huge scandal involving Brett Ratner. It took both those guys out. And then Ann Sarnoff recently came on, and she comes from a digital background. So it'll be interesting. Jason Kilar does as well. He comes from a digital background, but he's running all of Warner Media, whereas Ann Sarnoff is running the entertainment division of Warner Media Entertainment, technically Warner Brothers. So we'll see how that goes. Now, if Toby Emmerich does exit Warner Brothers, that will have significant ramifications in several areas. It could affect other executives and all the movies in development at Warner Brothers. You have to think about this in terms of the entire slate. Although, because again, Toby Emmerich, I've heard, runs things defensively, it doesn't seem like he's really championing any movies in particular. So I don't know if anything would be considered, Toby Emmerich's baby that would unfortunately leave with him. It doesn't seem to be the case to me. Now, Walter Hamada has very aggressive plans for DC. He's very aggressive. And, DC fandom was a huge hit. DC has its wins. And remember, he did a fantastic job with horror, which is why he was promoted, I think it's a promotion because DC is more of a high-level brand where he certainly gets a lot more face time. But he did a great job with horror, and so we'll see how his DC plans work out. He's just getting started, and we really won't know how things are going until we see this Flash movie, which just began filming. And as I told you, I've heard very good things about the movie. But basically any film that's not actively shooting, if Toby Emmerich were to exit Warner Brothers, would perhaps not continue under a new studio head. That person would decide what direction they wanted to run the studio in. As we all know, Warner Brothers has a tremendous stable of franchises. I was just thinking the other day, I think I discussed on a live stream, that they should seriously try to, buy into the Universal Studios theme parks worldwide so they can, deliver more lands, because Harry Potter started the theme park wars. Disney had total dominance, and Harry Potter made it neck and neck. And so imagine if they were to open a DC land. That would be just so phenomenal. In a Mortal Kombat area, I mean, Warner Brothers has the franchises and a legion of fans for many, that are in many cases, fans of many of those franchises simultaneously, and really are interested to see those franchises perform at the level that they should, and that franchises at other studios are performing. But you never know. Approaching Netflix might have been a move for Toby Emmerich to get a better deal out of Warner Brothers, to look like there was a fight for him. But then again, Netflix said no thank you, so that didn't really play out maybe as planned. We'll see. Then finally, another big picture thing about this development, in addition to the shifting power dynamic between streaming services and traditional studios, is that it has been frustrating for many fans to see executives at many of the studios run franchises into the ground, or at least off the rails, and have absolutely no ramifications for doing that. So if this were to happen, that would mean that, studios might not circle the wagons as they have been in the past. So that's another potential development here. So again, we'll see what happens. Toby Emmerich's contract, again, is up next year. So that's not a huge waiting period. So again, we'll see. But very interesting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it down below. Subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.